This is the first video in Unit 3, which is covering function basics. And this video is going to combine skill 1 and 2. It's kind of the first half of this video topic. And we're covering identifying functions. Okay, how can you tell if something is a function or not? And then also, how do you state its domain and range? Okay, so first we need to start with a definition of a term called a relation. Okay, so let's write down this basic definition for the term relation. It is a set of pairs of input and output values. Okay, a relation is a set of pairs of input and output values. And typically, these relations can take on 3 different forms. Okay, so you could have a set of ordered pairs. That's one way to show a relation. So a set of ordered pairs, we'll look at an example in a moment. You might have what's called a mapping. We'll look at one of those. And then also, you might have points plotted on a graph. Okay, so a relation might be shown on a graph. So let's take a look at an example that's shown in each of these 3 forms. So let's start by drawing an example of the set of ordered pairs. This is a very typical way to be given your relation. So we start the set with this kind of fancy bracket. Okay, that's like a set bracket. And then inside there, we're going to list off 5 ordered pairs. Now you might remember that an ordered pair looks something like this, right? 2 numbers. Usually it's like an x value and then a y value. Okay, so 0, 4, -2, 3, -1, +3, -2, 2, and 1, -3. Okay, and then we'll end the set with another set bracket. So this is what a relation can look like as a list of ordered pairs. Okay, it's a set of pairs of inputs and outputs. Okay, so here the input is always the first value. Okay, so it's the first value. And then the second value is called the output. Okay, the second value. So notice that each ordered pair is an input and then an and then an output value. Okay. All right. Now let's go ahead and take a look at a mapping. Okay. If you were asked to make a mapping of this relation, here's what it would look like. You make 2 kind of boxes like this, and in the box on the left we put the inputs. Okay, and we list them, typically vertically. And if there are any repeats, we don't have to list them twice. So I look above, and my inputs, the first values, are 0, -2, -1, -2 again, and then +1. Now I can choose to write them in actual numerical order. Okay, -2 is the smallest, then -1, then 0, and then +1. So those are all the inputs. Now the outputs go in the box on the right. Okay, again, I don't need to list any repeats if there are any. I see, let's see, 4, 3, 3 again, 2, and -3. So in order, -3, 2, there's a +3 and a +4. Okay, now with a mapping, we need to connect the right numbers on the input column to their number from the output column, right? So, for example, the first ordered pair above is 0, 4. So I need to draw a one-way arrow, 0 to 4. Okay? So the input is matched up with its output. And then the second ordered pair, -2, 3. So -2 at input gets matched with 3 as the output. -1 is also matched to 3, so there's 2 arrows going to 3. -2 was matched to +2, so notice it had 2 numbers that it went to, so there's 2 arrows coming out of -2, and then 1 is matched up with -3 on the top. And that's a mapping, okay? And finally, we might have a graph to show this relation, okay? Now our graph, we're talking about like an x, y axis, okay? Remember that the x is the horizontal axis and the y axis is the vertical axis, okay? We could put a small scale on here. Okay, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go up. I might not number those, we can just count. And we're going to put points on our graph. Okay, so the first ordered pair was 0, 4. The input is your x. Okay, so think of your x-axis as the inputs and the y-axis as the outputs. Okay, so when we have 0, 4, we go to 0 on the x and then to 4 on the y, which is up 4. Okay, so that dot right there is 0, 4. And then -2, 3. I go to -2 on the x-axis, and then up 3 on the y, and I put a point. Okay, that's about -2 and 3. Okay, let's continue plotting points. -1, 3. That would be right here. Okay, -1, 3. -2, 2. That's to the left 2 and then up 2. So -2, 2. And finally 1, -3. I need to extend my axis down a little further. We have 1 and then down 3, so down here, that's 1, -3. Okay, so these are 3 different ways of showing a relation. A set of ordered pairs, right, with inputs and then outputs. You can put those into a mapping, okay, where you draw arrows to connect the input numbers to their output number. And you can also plot those points on a graph to have a bunch of dots on a graph that can show the relation, right, the connection of which input goes with which output. Now we're going to talk about those words domain and range. The domain of a relation is the set of input values. So let's write down that definition. The domain is the set of input values. Okay, a lot of times we think of those as the x values. The range is the set of output values. Okay, we think of those a lot as our y values. Okay, so if you're asked to list the domain and the range, we need to refer to the x values for domain and y values for range. Okay, now we're also going to talk about a function here. Some relations have a special characteristic about them that makes them a function. Okay, so the definition of a function is that each x value, okay, so each input value, each x value, is paired with exactly one y value. Okay, one y value or one output value. And that's the important piece, that each x value, if it's paired with more than exactly one y value, that relation is not a function. So let's practice identifying a few functions and stating their domain and range. So here are two examples that I'd like you to copy down for your notes. So go ahead and pause the video for a moment to have time to copy them down, and then press play again so I can explain these two. So in example 1, we have a list of ordered pairs, and the first question is it a function? Okay, well, the definition of function, again, is that each x value is paired with exactly one, only one y value. So we look at our x values in each pair. Notice I see no repeats, right? None of the numbers happen twice for x values. So that means -1 is only paired with one value. 0 is only paired with one value. 1 is only paired with one value. And 2, same thing. So the answer here for a function is yes. Okay, each x value is only paired with one y value. Okay, for the domain, these are the x values. We write it in set brackets, and now we list out the x values. You don't need to include repeats if there were any, and you just put commas in between. So -1, 0, 1, 2. For the range, we list the y values. We use our set brackets. Now the y values, there are 4 of them, but notice the 3's repeat. You do not need to include the 3 twice, just 1, 3, 5. Okay, let's look at number 2. Okay, do you see an x value that has more than one y value? Okay, then it's not a function. Notice how in your x's here on the left, this -3 is paired with 2 y values. That piece right there makes this not a function. Okay, notice 2 arrows coming out of one x value means it's not a function. But this relation still has a domain and range. Okay, so our domain is still the x values, the -3, the 2, and the 5, and our range is still the y values, the outputs on the right, 1, 2, and 3.